Bloodstained Curse of the Moon is a Kickstarter game from Castlevania producer Koji Igarashi, but it's the game that was part of the stretch goal. This isn't even the game that the Kickstarter was for. That game, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, will release in 2019. Curse of the Moon is an 8-bit throwback game that could have easily fallen into being nothing more than Castlevania 3.5, and while the influence of that game is heavy, is it more than just a love letter to the NES era of side-scrolling Castlevania games? The game opens with the player taking control of a character named Zangetsu, a demon-hunting swordsman as he heads out to find a very powerful demon that he can sense. He's an emotionless man and is focused only on his duty, and strongly values people's skills in battle. Throughout the beginning stages, he will encounter a woman endowed with crystals that are imbued with demonic energies. Her name's Miriam, an old alchemist named Alfred, and Jabel, who is also imbued with magic crystals. Zangetsu controls much like Ryu from Ninja Gaiden. Miriam is much like the traditional whip-wielding Belmonts from the Castlevania series, and Alfred and Gable are basically sci-fi and Alucard from Castlevania 3. You can switch between the characters on the fly with the left and right bumper buttons. I played the game on the PS4, but I assume controller layout is pretty much the same for each platform that the game has been released on. And each character plays quite differently. Zangetsu uses a sword and some special weapons, including a Morning Star that he can only whip upwards at angles. It's very handy. Get the Morning Star. If you get something else, get the Morning Star. Miriam uses a whip and sub-weapons. The whip has got a much farther range than Zangetsu's sword, and the special weapons are more traditional Castlevania fare. My personal favorite, the 3 throwing knives that she unleashes in kind of a upward angle type of thing, but straight ahead of her too. It's like 3 points on whatever. Anyways, she also jumps higher than the other characters and can perform a slide. I didn't really use Alfred much, but he has a lightning ball special and a freezing spike special that are grossly overpowered. The ice spike freezes any creature and lets them be killed in one hit, except bosses. The lightning ball homes in on enemies and can trivialize most boss fights. I literally beat the final boss without even breaking a sweat because of the lightning ball spell. Jabel unleashes 3 bats from his cape in a pattern that roughly covers maybe a 45-degree angle, but the range is very limited. He can, however, transform into a bat. Miriam's slide and Jabel's bat form allow for areas of the map to be accessed to uncover secret areas or alternate routes through the stages, some even leading to power-ups that increase maximum health. The creatures you fight along the way are pretty much reskinned Castlevania monsters, but the boss fights are fun and rarely frustrating, except for one on the pirate ship, which we'll get more into the pirate ship in a little bit. The levels can be harder than some of the bosses, to be honest, but difficulty really isn't a factor though. And even the hardest stages aren't truly that difficult. When you start the game, you're asked to choose between casual and veteran difficulty. The enemies take the same amount of hits, and the only difference being that you have unlimited lives in casual mode, and in veteran mode, you don't. Another note about difficulty is that the veteran difficulty will have damage knockback. So if that was a feature you really loved in Castlevania, then it's there for you in your veteran mode. In casual, however, if you get hit, your character stays in place, or if you're jumping, you don't get knocked back to fall down whatever convenient pit is nearby. There's a nightmare mode that is unlocked upon completion of the game that, from what I've played, it's just the same stages with some different enemies showing up sooner than they would have the first run through the game. It's basically a second quest. But still, the casual and veteran modifiers can be chosen for nightmare mode too, so yeah. Poor naming. Veterans of old-school side-scrolling Castlevania games will have little trouble with this game, as it's pretty easy compared to the series that it has its love letter addressed to. But replay value, it's there. There's 6 different endings, and while I wish the game would tell you this, instead of recruiting your new companions that you come across, you can kill them to unlock new abilities for Zangetsu. Now, the story isn't as paper-thin as Castlevania. Yes, you're demon hunters looking for demons to kill. There's more interesting stuff going on here that I hope gets elaborated on further in Ritual of the Night. Miriam and Jabel were implanted with crystals that were meant to be used to summon demons. These crystals give these 2 powers beyond that of normal human beings. As they use the powers, though, the crystals kind of curse them and begin to expand these across their bodies over time, giving them the appearance of stained glass. You getting where the title comes from? The game controls well for the most part. I did find some of the jumping to be kind of wonky in some parts, notably the later stages where you're trying to outrun bats that are destroying the platforms below you, or maybe they're big castle-eating termites, I'm not real sure. but the game controls well and does pretty much what you'd expect it to do when you press a button. The stages are interesting, but standard fare if you're familiar with Castlevania. The pirate ship stage that I mentioned, yeah, that stage can go fuck itself. It took me a while to figure that stage out, and I don't know if it was poor stage design or if I'm just fucking retarded, but it took me like a half hour in one part because I hit a dead end and I couldn't figure out where to go. Well, little did I know you could actually traverse the diagonal ropes like they were a fucking set of steps. So yeah, I kind of felt like an idiot after I figured that one out, but it might have just been me. Interesting little detail too though is as you progress through the game, each stage has the moon in the background, ever present. And with each new stage, the moon also changes stages, starting with a crescent moon and ending up as a full moon during the last stage. The game looks amazing. I mean, yeah, it has an 8-bit design philosophy, but it still looks pretty fucking good, and it would be at home on the NES just fine. The sound is typical NES sound chip MIDI music, but it's pretty catchy. Maybe not Bloody Tears or Vampire Killer catchy, but it's catchy. The music was enjoyable and lent itself to the atmosphere. The boss battles, while creative, were easy, and each boss does have a final stand move when you defeat them, so watch out for that. Speaking of final stand moves that the bosses do, the boss of the pirate ship level, are we seeing a pattern, has the flashiest fucking final move I remember in a game. It summons swaths of lightning, and the screen will flash for quite a bit, so if you're epileptic, be careful of that one. As a regular release on any digital store, this game would be worth the price of admission. It's pretty fun, if not easy, but it's got some decent replay value to it, and as a game that was made because the Kickstarter for a bigger game hit a stretch goal, it's pretty fucking amazing. I look forward to getting my hands on Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and I wish I would have backed this Kickstarter when it started, so I could play the demos that's out there for the backers. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon is available on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, the PlayStation Vita, the PC, the Nintendo Switch, and the Nintendo 3DS. If you got some cash floating around, the game runs around $9.99, and you like side-scrolling action platformers and were a fan of the old-school Castlevania games, give it a go. You might like it.